of view that you cannot just pick it up from Scripture. You can read Scripture all day long. If you don't have life experience, you can't understand it. So this is the understanding in a way, which will be enlarged upon as time goes. So I hope you remember and you understand what it is, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Yeah? So I could leave the Bible and explain it to you on just a human level, because I would like to add a lot of Scripture, which I may paraphrase to add to the thing. But this is what it is. So much to explain inside the thing, and it have to come from somewhere it's easy to take, so you can just push it forward quickly. But I might find myself going back into different places. But what it is basically is this: eat someone's flesh and drink their blood. When you grow up in the wrong part of the world, you won't understand. It's not easy to understand because language is missing. Yeah?
Yes, sir.
Language is missing, and language is everything. So I said in one of my quotes on this video, the first thing they did was steal our mind. And there is no greater tool of the mind than the language. The language is the greatest tool of the mind. If you got the wrong language, you will think wrongly. If you got the right language, you will think rightly. If you got a good language, you will think goodly. If you got a bad language, you will think badly, and so on and so forth. Now, when you got a foolish language, you're basically being constructed foolishly. Everything about you will be foolish because the language is you. The language is you. That's why we keep going back to when it says, and the Word became man. The Word became flesh and dwelt among men. Yeah? The Word became what? Became flesh. So it's telling you word is language, isn't it? Yeah?
Yes, sir.
A word is language, but a language now became flesh. So it's very important to now identify what that flesh is. Which type of flesh is it? It's every flesh? Because not all languages are the same, not all words are the same. So which one of those flesh did that word become? It's very important. Because everything has its own separate, unique, distinct value, and so on and so forth. Not all flesh have the same stuff inside them. That's why you can eat McDonald's chicken and feel this way, and eat another KFC chicken and feel that way. Because they all look the same, but something inside them just gives you a different. So if McDonald's say you need to eat my flesh and drink my blood, they're telling you it's not the same as KFC's one. So, but anyway, language is one of the top powerful tools that's embedded into man by his creator. But we are understanding that word became flesh. So that flesh should have that word. And that word itself must be rendered in a language which holds some power and quality, which is a common denominator with the creator. That language between creator and the created has to have a common denominator. They need to understand each other. Like a remote control and a TV need to understand each other. There's 4 remote controls in this room now. Each one listens to only one device. They got to listen. They can't start listening to the different device. So when now the Messiah says, you're going to eat my flesh and drink my blood, you can only understand it coming from a certain culture. You can't understand it in English. How will you understand that in English? I haven't heard the understanding in English. I haven't heard the understanding anywhere. Not only not in English, but anywhere. So I'm doing it today. I'm giving part of it because I've looked at it and I saw the picture and everything came, and the Creator asked me, expand it, expand it, expand it, spread it out like dough. You know how they expand dough? You roll it into a ball, then you take that thing and you start spreading it. And you see, wow, this thing can spread this much. You keep spreading it. Whoa, it's now big like a pizza, a round pizza. You cut it in 2 and still spread it. And you're like, wow, this thing is spreading, man, like water. So the culture has to be right. Because, oh gosh, this is a layers, man. I'm not even prepared right now to really deal with it properly because I like to have stuff to, you know, to pixelate the thing. But anyway, just in shorthand, the culture needs to be right to understand this, that saying. Eat the flesh and drink my blood. You have no part in me. I think maybe I've pulled that scripture in a bit, just so that I can edify our Creator with that one. So yeah, but let me try and get the scripture first. Where are we now? The book of John, I don't know, one somewhere there. I come to a few places, but whoa, what's going on, man? Right. Boy, I wish I go. Alright, 6. Okay. Right, okay, so we have John 6. So it says, John 6 and 51, it says, I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If any man eats of this bread, he shall live forever. And the bread that I will give is my flesh, which I will give for what?
For the life.
You see that? The word what is there again?
Life.
It's there again. Strong, powerful. Every time, spot on. I will give it for the life of the world. Not for anything else, but for the life. Some of the people therefore strove among themselves, saying, how can this man give us his flesh to eat? Verse 53. Then Yeshe said unto them, verily, verily, I say unto you, except you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no what?
Life.
You have no life in you, because he himself is Iye. So him saying you have to eat Iye to have what?
Life.
To have it, you got to eat it, yeah? I mean, how much clearer can this become when we now understand what the word life is, what the word Iye is, and who our creator is? How much clearer does it become now? It's like becoming daylight right now. It says, my flesh which I will give for the life of the world, so that the world can have what? Can have life. Verse 53. So he said unto them, Yeshe said unto them, surely, surely I say unto you, unless you eat the flesh of me and drink my blood, you have no what in you? You have no life in you. Now 54. Whoso eateth my flesh, and it's going on and on and on, like ties going on and on and on, right? Keeps repeating it. Oh yeah, we're going on too much, man. You can see him going on. So whoso eateth my flesh, verse 54, whoso eateth my flesh and drink my blood, he had what?
Eternal life.
He has eternal life. He has Iye, Asher Iye inside him. Yeah? And I will what? I will raise him up at the last day, because you got to raise up. You will be raised up because you have that power in you. You will come up. You have it in you. It's going to be put into you. You got no choice but to raise up. You just have no choice because it's in you. Like a battery goes inside a phone. If it's charged, the phone has to do what? It has to switch on. I will raise them up at the last day. Verse 55. For my flesh is what? Is meat indeed. That is food indeed. And my blood is what? Is drink indeed. 56. He that eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood dwelleth what?
In me.
He lives in me. And what? And I in him. So we eat his flesh, drink his blood, we live inside what?
Inside him.
Who is him again?
Life.
We live inside life. And life does what? Life lives inside us. Yeah? Where am I? I wanted to pull. Yeah, this way I wanted to pull something. Have I gone past it? Okay. That was verse 53 is the focus point, yeah? But I'm going to read a little bit on. But verse 53 is the focus point where it says, Yeshe said unto them, surely, surely I say unto you, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man, you need to eat it. It's a necessity for you to eat it and drink his blood. Because if you don't, then what?
You have no life.
You have no life in you. You don't have any life. Yeah? So we jump back to 56. He that eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood dwells in me, and I in him. As what? As Iye. The Father has what? Has sent me. Verse 57, yeah? I'm putting the right words back in there, okay?
Yeah.
As where they put living, they're just hiding life again. This is where they start hiding this thing, yeah? So they say as the living Father. No, he's not a living Father. He's life himself. Nobody gave him. He is the thing. You understand? Yeah. So as life himself had sent me, and I live by life, who is also the Father in this context, that's fine. Yeah, and the word Father is another lesson on its own. And I live by the Father. So he that what? Eateth me, even he shall live by me. Yeah? That is that bread which came down from heaven, not as your fathers did eat manna and are dead. He that eats of this bread shall what?
Shall live.
Shall live forever. 59. These things said he in the synagogue as he taught in Capernaum. 60. Many therefore of his disciples, when they had heard this, said, what did they say? This is a hard saying.
This is a hard saying.
Who can
hear it?
I.e., who can accept this? because he's sounding boisterous here. What's this guy saying, man? We've heard all this stuff. Well, now he's saying we gotta eat him, and who do you think he is? So when IYESE knew in himself that his disciples were murmuring at it, he said unto them, are you offended as well? What and if you shall see the Son of Man ascend up where he was before? It is what? It is the Spirit that quickeneth. Yeah, you understand that word, yeah? It is the Spirit that brings alive. It is the Spirit that gives life. That's what that is saying, yeah?
Right.
The flesh profited nothing. This is explaining now. The words that I speak unto you, they are what? Spirit. And they are what?
And they are life.
Read that again, 63. The words that let me start 63. It is the Spirit that quickeneth. That is, it's the Spirit that makes you have life. Yeah? Now listen carefully. The flesh gives you nothing. Alright? That's what it profited nothing. It gives you nothing, yeah? The words that I speak unto you. Now slow down on there again. The what?
The words.
The words. Write that in your mind. The what?
The words.
The words that I speak unto you. They are what?
They are spirit.
And they are?
They are life.
See that now. So what is life again?
Life.
Yeah, what?
Spirit.
And
words.
The words. Words is spirit. Okay? Word is spirit. Yeah? We'll go there a little bit also. Word is spirit. And he's saying to you, to us, and to our brethren at that time, that word which he's speaking to them, that same word or words, they are spirits and they are life. That is, those words are power. They are power. A spirit just means power, which works, which is working. Yeah? A spirit is working, yeah? It means a power that's working. And where are we again? 64. They are spirits and they are what? They are life. Now here's the key. If the words which he's speaking is spirit and is life, we know that any man who speaks in a certain what?
In a certain spirit.
Yeah, but besides the spirit, which we don't see, he speaks in a certain what? He speaks in a certain language.
Language, okay.
Yeah? Whenever anybody is speaking words to you, there has to be a language he's speaking. Right?
Yeah.
There has to be a language which he's speaking. So are you speaking French? Are you speaking Portuguese? Is it American English or English or whatever? Yoruba or Shona or, you know? So he's now saying to his brethren, right up to now, that the words he's speaking are spirit and their life. Yeah? And he says, he is that same bread of life. He says, drink my blood, eat my flesh. Yeah? So he's saying, at the same time, the words which he's, and he's parlaying all of it together as a package. There's the flesh, there's the blood, there's the spirit and the life, and all of them are one. And he says he's speaking it, and this is where I say it's a wide thing, and I will forget one thing once I go into another, but I'm going to try to keep myself focused and moving along the line, because as soon as I miss one or two points, because there's so many points. So our point here is trying to come to, what does he mean when he says we need to eat his flesh and drink his blood, yeah? So that's where we go. So make sure I don't forget that, because there's so much I want to explain and put into this thing. So, but he's now showing us that the words that he speaks are spirit and their life. And this is the point number 2 I'm trying to make, so I don't want to veer off and go somewhere else without dealing with one or the other. So one of the 2 points is language power. That's one of the 2 points. The second point is flesh, blood, meaning. Just so I don't forget these things, yeah? So we deal with them one by one. So we take the language powers, number 1 thing. You cannot have life, which he's talking about. You can't have it if you don't know what language he's speaking. You can't. You can't have it. Because he's telling you that he himself who is speaking it, he's speaking, like we said, anyone who speaks is doing what? Is speaking in a certain language. It's just plain. And I'm contending today, right now, as I always have, that when you speak English, at least English, it has no life. There's no life in the English language. You just can't get it. It's just not there. It's just not there. I mean, I speak both languages and I just know that there's just no life. There's no explanations inside English which gives life.
What do you mean? Because I speak English and I don't know my Shona. So you say that English doesn't have life. What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, put it like this: you wouldn't understand because you can't understand. You can only understand if you speak another language, which is a life language. You must speak a life language. I know it's in the video we made. A life language, yeah. You must speak to understand what I'm saying. A life language to understand, you must. But you can understand, but I'll have to explain in a different way. You must speak a life language to understand what I'm seeing and what I'm saying, and what he's saying, what he or she is saying. That's the most important. What he's saying, for you to understand what he's saying, because he's not speaking to everyone. That's why there's a scripture that says the gospel unto the Greeks is foolishness, and unto the Israelites it's a stumbling block. Because the Greeks are like, what are they talking about? A man died for our sins. What's that? We don't understand what they're saying. They must be stupid. These guys are off their head. How can somebody else die for me? That's madness. But guess what? It's not for you. He ain't talking to you. I mean, when you speak Greek in your country, are French people wondering if you're talking to them? They're not wondering if you're talking to them. Because what is life for you is not life for them. What you hear that makes you feel good, they're not hearing it. You can talk all you want. You can tell them you've just won £1 million. They don't understand what you're saying. They don't understand what you could be showing them a ticket that they've won £1 million right now. But you're speaking the wrong language to them. They'll just keep walking. Imagine that. Imagine that. Imagine that me and you can go downstairs and somebody will come up from Portuguese and say, yo bro, do you want £1 million? And because you can't speak the language, you just say, sorry man, I'm not interested. I'm in a hurry right now. That's what language is. Now a person who speaks that language will be like, hold on, he's asking us if we want £1 million. Is he serious? You'll be like, is that what he said? Your mate will be like, yeah, that's what he said. Let me ask him again. Por favor, senor. And you go on. Okay. So now, for us to have life and to understand especially what is being said by IYESE here, we need to understand what he's saying about what he's talking about. I mean, this is now bang in the air again, because certain things which I wouldn't need to try to explain if I was talking to somebody who speaks that language. Now I have to. But for them, if they've already gotten it, like, oh, yeah, okay. But just hold on, don't worry about it.
I mean, I'm confused a little bit, but part of me still recognizes, I get where you're going. It's like, maybe because I grew up in...
Well, we'll make it simple. What we're saying in simplicity is this. Which I've used one analogy, I've used one analogy. But as I like to say sometimes, like we live in a world today of information. Everyone knows if you want to tune into a radio station, you have to tune into the right numbers. If you tune into the right number, but a different language starts to speak, you need to tune away from there, because you're not hearing what they're saying. You're not interested in what they're saying because you don't even hear what they're saying. Yeah? So, in this case, our Messiah is also telling us that he's only speaking to the people. That's why he said, my sheep know my voice. Yes. It's not just his voice they know his language also. Yeah, they know his language. It's not just a voice. It's not just boom, boom, boom. No, it's what's in there. What's in there. Yeah. When he says come and come, the difference between come and hey. There's a big difference. The same word, but voice differently. It means two different things. Yeah, so on and so forth. So, but we try and stick to this thing. So what we're saying is, IYESE has a people. And his people understand what he's saying right there. At least in spiritual language, they understand what he's saying. But they just don't understand fully the symbolism and the application, I think. The symbolism and the application of what he's saying, that they're not willing to do yet. So their eyes are still blinded. But a computer, Apple or Microsoft, may be built with two separate different types of languages. They may have some similarities. But what makes Apple Apple is different to what makes Windows Windows. And in fact, when you start using them, you can tell how to do things is slightly different. Apple computer will not listen when you do stuff that you normally do on a Windows computer. Apple computer might just be looking at you like, what are you doing? And so on and so forth. So language is very important, because inside the language he says there is life. The words that I speak unto you, verse 63, in John 6, it says, the flesh profited nothing. The words that I speak unto you, that is the language that I speak unto you, they are what? They are spirit and they are life. The language that I speak unto you, because don't forget, he's not only speaking words. The words are in a what? They're in a language, because those words can't drop unless he has to speak that language, innit? Yeah, because I know some people on excuse me, some rough family members will come and start telling me, that's not what he means. We ain't changing nothing. It's right there. You've just gotten in the understanding. He cannot speak a word outside of his language.
Makes sense.
I wouldn't speak English for a while and then put one Shona word and you'll be like, I don't understand what you said, Uncle. I understood some part, but you just said a word which I'm not sure what you said. I'm like, yeah, because I spoke in Shona. You'd be like, okay, I don't speak Shona. Can you please continue in English? So obviously we know that any word that he would speak would have to be in a language, right? So if it's in a language, he's probably speaking to a particular people. Even if it's 3 languages, he's going to be speaking to them. It's still going to be in a language group that they understand, which is specific to them, tailored to them. Tailored to them. Because he came to give them what? To give them life. And he's going to only be able to give them life via that language, via those words. He won't be able to do it any other way. He won't be able to do it any other way. Actually, make something simple and so on and so forth. The video recorders we use in this country don't work in the United States. Yes. The video recorders they use over there don't work over here. And so on and so forth. And that's just how simple it is. Some electricity appliances. Plugs. EU, US, continental, oriental, Asia, don't work just anywhere. You need an adapter, i.e. a translator, which waters down meaning. Now we're talking of spiritual language, food and life. And we're talking of that life specifically from a particular person who says he's come to give it unto his own. So there must be a requirement, a dictum that needs to be adhered to, a protocol that needs to be known to receive that communication which will give life. And there has to be a receiver and a decoder and a descrambler and what's the other words? And I mean, there's so many words. The thing is large. How I want to spread it out, because people of all backgrounds can see the import of the thing. So anyway, that life he's talking about, that flesh and that blood, is coded into the word. And he said that word is spirit. And it's life. So what is spirit again? Spirit is a power. The power is within the word. Oh, look at that. Huh? A spirit is a power. Yeah? A spirit is power. The spirit is a power, yeah, because they have so many of them. Now, the spirit or power, this is breakdown now, is now embedded in what? In the word. The word itself is embedded in what? Is embedded in the language. The language is embedded in what?
In the person.
Embedded in the people. Yeah? And the people in their nation. Yeah? Okay. See, the breakdowns quite large, right? So a spirit is a power, because he says the word that I speak unto you, they are what? They are spirit and they are life. So we understand that life and spirit is a power, right? Right? And he says, For me to give you that power, that spirit, I need to do it by what? By word, by speaking. And he can only speak by using a language. And the language is of an ancient people. And the people are supposed to have their own culture, which is nation. And that culture is what keeps the language. So the people are kept. So the language is kept. So the word is kept. So the spirit and the power is what? Is also kept. That's why those who destroyed us started with our language. So once they take the language away, there's nothing there, everything falls apart. Then they give us a language of death. Because they gave us language of death. So we can't be alive anymore. They're making sure we keep losing our language, because as we keep losing our language, what are we losing slowly? We're losing power. And when we're losing power, he says their spirit and their what? So what are we losing again? We're losing life when we keep losing our language. We're losing life as we keep losing our language. It's like, I don't know, it's like a bank account draining because of some errors. Just draining. You're not even using it, it's just draining, i.e. going to waste. It's draining. So we're wasting our power. Our power is not even wasting, we're bleeding. Sorry. We're bleeding. We've been punctured. And life is oozing out of us slowly. What's the word? Unrecoverably, or what's that word? Irreversibly. We're just bleeding. We're bleeding. And that's a key word also there, right there, isn't it? The analogy of losing our language, bleeding. Call it language bleeding. Language bleeding is what? Losing what? Losing language. And when we do that, we're losing what? We're losing life. It's all tied up in there. That's why I said this, places to go in this stuff is just too much. I'll try and keep a focus. So we're losing our language. It means we're bleeding. Because we're losing our spirit. We're losing our spirit, which is an original spirit. Because there's power in it, life is in it. But we've lost it, and now we're replacing. It's called blood transfusion. You hear that again? See how? Yeah. And I'm going to tell you what I mean. The wrong kind. Imagine a human lose so much blood, and they won't give him some blood back, and they're going to give him a pig's blood, and engineer the blood of an animal to go back inside the human, which they're doing right now on the earth, to further destroy our spirit from within the flesh, because all of these things are connected. So they give us the wrong kind of blood, which level, the spiritual type, and the physical type also. And we will touch on that. See, we're opening up kernels and kernels now. So they give us the wrong kind by giving us the wrong language. So via the wrong language, we start to bleed. And when we start to bleed, we're losing life. And then after we've lost life, we lost then they replace our blood by giving us a different blood. Different what? A different blood, because this different blood, new blood, has no what? Has no what? Has no life in it. That's why our children are given a different language. Given a different language. So they don't carry on life. Carry on life. They made, we wrote this down, they made African languages stink to people's ears. People's ears. So we hate it. So we hate it. Meaning we hate what? Come on. Meaning we hate what?
Life.
We hate what?
Life.
We hate, because once we hate our language, guess what we really hate? We really hate life. And they've replaced it with death for us. Replaced, yeah? I'll stop on there for this section. Replaced it with death. Right? So they replaced it with death for us. They take life and they give us death. It's in the language. So now when Christ now will move to the part where it says eat and drink. Cut this short. But when we get to the part where now it says eat my flesh and drink my blood. If you don't do it, you don't have life in you. You can't. Sorry. He's saying, I'm not the one who said it. He's the one who said it, right? I understand it now. At the age of a couple of years now, I understood it. And I said, wow, this is serious. Because, okay. So what's he saying? So I'm contending that if you speak a different language, you can't understand what he's saying. That's my contention. Why we spend half hour going this way first. If you speak a different language, you cannot understand John 6 and 63. You can't understand it. How can you? How? You can't. 6 and 63, right? Well, come up there a bit to, where are we?
It's in the 50s, yeah.
50, well, up there somewhere anyway, yeah? Right, so, now, one, you can't understand it if you speak the wrong language. If you don't speak right language, just in case I forget, right language, you cannot understand this saying.
So, Uncle, even you explaining it to me right now in English is still not doing it justice.
It's still watered down. It still needs a very heavy payload to just, to push it properly in all the perspectives. And it needs somebody who has patience patience of ancient patience, because if they don't, to even think of this thing I'm thinking of, you can't even think to think of it, never mind to share it, because it's arduous to the brain. But this is my job, so I have to do it, and I will do it. That's why I have to lay it all out properly. So let's move on to eating it and drinking it, because they're connected, but they're two separate things. But my first contention was you can't understand what he's saying there unless you speak the language he speaks, period.
So even just the whole explanation about this scripture, can't understand, we can't even get to second stage without understanding the language first.
It's hard. It's almost impossible.
So if I didn't know this and I was a Christian, I haven't even got down to the meat before even entering the gates, because I don't know the language. For me to understand when the Messiah is saying you should eat in order to be
unless you eat me and drink me.
We haven't even begun to
You can't understand it. The people cannot. That's why they don't teach it. You will, once I understood what he's saying, just casually I looked at what people understand by what he's saying. They're just talking from a Western point of view. Oh, he didn't mean it literally. He's just saying, okay, fair enough. He's not saying tear me up now, chop me up and eat me. Yeah. But what is he saying? You're telling me what he's not saying. Well, tell me what he's saying. Come on. So, but they will speculate and, tell you that, so. Well, this is what it is. Yeah, some of them do try, but this is what it is. Now let's break it properly. That's why I say it's important to know the language. The language is contained within the people and the culture. And that's where the power and the spirit and life is. Because don't forget, his name was revealed only in a language. That's why, look, it cannot make sense to nobody who don't know what. You don't know the language, how can it make sense to you? Even when it's shown to you later on, it still don't make sense to you to link what is shown to you later on to the name which was revealed. Because it just don't make sense. But when I heard it, I have been hearing it, and then suddenly I decided to look, look inward. Not because of the Bible, but look inward, because I feel there's something trying to be stolen from me. And I'm glad I got out of this system when I got out of this system. Because it's the pact I made with the Creator. I said, look, before I get drenched in this system, just pull me out. Pull me out. And that's what he did. He pulled me out. He said, boy, you're going to need to sacrifice if you want me to do what you asked me to do for you. You're going to need to make a huge sacrifice for me to do what you asked me to do for you. You're the one who asked me. So he says, be careful what you ask for. Because sometimes you might what? You might get it. So when the time came and he said, okay, you asked me to pull you out just before you got lost in the system. Here I am. You ready for it? But you're going to need to do some things. You're going to really need to come out of it, because there's stuff you need to see. And there's no way you're going to see it by sitting in this system. You've got to get out of the shit to see the shit. And I'm like, whoa, okay. So how long is it going to take? Don't even ask. How about the rest of your life? What? Yeah, the rest of your life. Well, it starts with a step. First step, get your stuff, put it, and move out of this shit first. So get out of Egypt. where you can now listen to me properly. So me and you will just have time to listen to each other now. So I can start checking you if you're ready and start, if I see you're ready, I'll give you a little bit. If I see you're ready even more, I'll give you a little bit more. If I see you're ready a little bit more, I'll give you a little bit more. I ain't gonna give you nothing unless you show me you're ready. That's how he deals. So he said, okay, I'm ready for this. Let's do it. That's how I rolled with it. And the first thing that hit me, once he took me out there, was one day a brother came around, spoke to me and said, it's you? You won't believe it. He said, I'm from your country and I know some people who know you. And things that, I used to be young then and I heard so much about you, and this is you? I can't believe it. And what struck me was, while I was talking to this brother, I couldn't speak my language anymore. I was like, I'm speaking English to this guy, and it is reminding me of my past in my own nation, and mentioning things in my nation and people in my nation. But I'm not able to enjoy the conversation with him about my past in my own language, in which my past happened. I'm now having to explain my past to him in a different language, even in a third language. So I said, something's wrong. So I left that conversation and I went and I was like, hold on, this ain't right. I learned English, I learned some this, some that. Now I'm busy learning another language at the moment, and I can't even speak mine. Like, this ain't right. So I declared that day, I said, from now, every brother that I meet, I'm going to be encouraging them. Let's speak, bro. Where you from? And that's how I started. And I realized that they have the same disease too. Most of them can't speak nothing. I'm like, can't you see there's a problem? They're like, yeah, bro. If you didn't say, do you know I didn't realize. I'm like, so do you still remember the word for this, the word for that? They're like, I'm like, do you know the word for this in this language here? They're like, yeah. Do you know the word for this in English? Yeah. What about Italian? Yeah. But what about the same word for our language? It's been a long time, bro. Oh, we've been bleeding. Right. But at that point, I couldn't connect it to the Bible. I couldn't connect it at that time to the Bible. But it asked me, get the language back first. You're going to need it. So I started practicing my language back. This is what now? But let's just say 10 years. Just trying to refresh my language and bringing back words, bringing back names, bringing back places, faces, via language. Every new word I remember in my language brings back pictures. Can you imagine that? It brings back events. It opens up a new door, just like things are forgotten. Just suddenly, like just because I was able to remember a word which was embedded in me from childhood, but taken out of me in adulthood. But as I remember those words and recollect them, even as just a drop of it, it just springs open pages of life, pages of happenings, of history, of recordings, which was locked. I mean, come on, what are we talking about here? I wish I could put this in pictures. We're talking about a word that drops, that is that tiny, but once it drops, opens up like that. Can you imagine that? Suddenly opens up like that, and those open up like that, and everything, a new stuff just opens up again. Whereas that word, if I forgot it, it closes up all these things. And is it not the same on a computer? When you can't find a folder, You can't find a file, because guess why you can't find the file? Come on, help me out.
The name.
You can't remember the name. You can't remember the word. So you can't find the file. The file could be 5 megabytes, 10 gigabytes. But you just cannot remember the name of it. How are you going to find it? And if you can't remember the name, even when you find it, you may not know you found it, because you ain't looking for it. So there's where the language comes in. And the language is in the culture is in the people, right? So he said, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no life. You have no part in me. If you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you will have life. You will have no choice but to rise up on the last day. You will just be awakened. You just don't have a choice, because you've been embedded with life. So he says, eat my flesh, drink my blood. What's he saying? I've got to go there right now. So this is what he's saying. Our parents, and we got to use that for now. I can use so many other things. I haven't prepared that as such. I'm just going to try. Our parents and people we know. We've used animals. How for us to have life, we have to eat. Okay? And every time we have to eat their flesh and do what again? And drink their blood. Yeah? We don't put a cup under the blood and drink as such. Yes, some places do. They actually do it for real. They actually drain the blood and drink it and eat the flesh too. So you can see that happening right there, right? Yeah? So everything we do predicates on life. We need life to give us life. And the flesh part of it is we can catch an animal or a plant or anything that has any kind of material that can sustain, and we ingest it. We eat it, we drink it, we smell it, we sniff it, we, even rub it on our bodies just to go inside. Yeah? So that's number one. Now number two is this. When we're children, our parents do everything for us so we can grow, i.e. so our life can continue. Yeah? So when if it's in places like the Western world, in fact everywhere over the world, as we start to grow older, our demands on our parents becomes heavier. If they're from a poorer background, it's even harder on them. They have to do so much more just to make sure we don't get trapped in the same poverty trap like they got trapped. Why it's so hard for them? So they want to do as much as they can to set us up, set us out. So they start working so hard and sacrificing so much to make it happen for us. Now when they've done all of that, if I've painted that picture for you so you can see it, when they've done all of that, in the right language, in the English language, it's missing. That power is missing. Unless it's somebody deeply more spiritual than just a person of a language and a culture. That person will tell you that I have given my sweat,
blood, sweat,
and tears just to make it easy for you. And you don't what? You don't appreciate it. I've spent my whole what?
Whole life.
For what?
For you.
For you. I've given my blood. They know it. They know they've given their blood. They're saying it. Now it's more easier said in cultures where they have life, because they spiritually is resonating and linguistically it's coming forth for reminders